Hari Madhava Kunja Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Gopijana Balabha Girivara Dadi Gopijana Balabha Girivara Dadi Gopijana Balabha Girivara Dadi Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Danda Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachadi Yamuna Tira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopijana Balabha Girivara Dadi Gopijana Balabha Girivara Dadi Gopijana Balabha Girivara Dadi Girivara Dadi Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Danda Brajajana Danda Yamuna Tira Vanachadi Yamuna Tira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Astatarasata Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaur Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Forget which chapter it is. We were reading yesterday evening. Yes. 524. Oh, there's the bookmark. Okay. On Vritrasura, looking around the room. Is there anybody here that needs a little background on who Vritrasura is? Do you know who Vritrasura is? Okay, good. You guys know, right? That's a yes or a no? No? How about your daughter? Vritrasura? Okay. So let's do a little, so that the context is important. Vritrasura, by the last word in his name, Asura, he's a demon, right? Asura means demon. Right? Okay, so he's Asura. But at the same time, he's the topmost devotee. There's different stages of devotion. We're kind of down here. There's beginning, intermediate, and advanced. Kanishta, Madhyama, Uttama. He's on the topmost of the Uttamas, Vritrasura. But he's in the body of a demon. So how did that happen? That's a topic that's in this canto. And how it happened was, in his previous life he was a king. You with me? In his previous life he was a king. And the king's name, we're reading about in the in the morning class, Chitra Ketu. King Chitra Ketu was a pretty interesting person. He was elevated at the same time he was attached. Specifically, he was attached to having a son, because it's part of dharma, part of the duty of a king is to leave behind the next king. The son becomes the next king. He had no son. So a whole series of events happened, which I won't go into the detail of, but Angira Muni visited the king. He saw that the king was like super attached, so he made some arrangement. He did a yagya whereby one of his queens would have a son. There was a son after some time. But the other, because he had more than one queen, the other queens were envious, really envious, because the king stopped paying attention to them. They're paying attention only to his son and the one who had the son, the queen that had the son. So they poisoned the boy in the middle of the night. Poisoned him. Dead. So King Chitraketu, and then right at the right time, Narada Muni showed up with Angira. And they gave him transcendental knowledge. They gave him teachings of devotion. Narada gave him a mantra for worshiping Lord Sankarshan. And we were reading in the morning class, he was moving quickly. In 7 days, he saw the personality of Godhead. It means he was really qualified. You can't do that normally. Then some interaction with Lord Sankarshan. Prayers, Sankarshan giving benedictions. King Chitraketu in his same body went to a higher planet called Vidyadhara. Vidya means knowledge. Dhara means to hold. They're very intelligent, very beautiful, very this and that. And he became a great personality really fast. And then Chitraketu, King Chitraketu, from his place in this higher planetary realm, he descended in his airplane, Vimana, You've heard that term before? Vimana means an airplane, a celestial airplane. Not this, not the ones they have, commercial ones today. Vimana. And so he came to visit Lord Shiva. He was appreciating Lord Shiva's sense control. Parvati misunderstood. Parvati understood he was criticizing Lord Shiva. She cursed him. This is the behavior of a demon. You become a demon. She cursed him. And he remained very calm. He offered his prayers to Parvati. You've misunderstood me, but that's okay. There's some plan of the Lord here. And I accept. I'll become a demon. Circumambulated her, went back in his Vimana, and sometime later became a demon. That's who Vritrasura was. Very elevated person with a misunderstanding. Sometimes people misunderstand us, right? I mean, sometimes. Not all the time. But sometimes. And that was one of those times. So he was cursed to become a demon, but he was a top consciousness. Topmost devotee. So it's a long story. He got involved in, he was manifest from a fire yagya. Vritrasura emerged from a yagya, a fire, by one Brahmin. Remember his name from yesterday? Starts with a T. Twashta. Twashta was a Brahmana. It's a detail, but it's an important detail. Twashta was one of the sons of Aditi. The sons of Aditi primarily were devas, demigods, like Indra. Indra was son number 11. And son number 12 was Lord Vamanadev. Vamanadev was a son of Aditi and Kashyapa. You know Vamana, right? The dwarf Brahmin? That Vamana. So that's a son of Aditi. And Twashta was one of them. But Twashta, when he became married, a Brahmin, he became married to one of the daughters of Diti and Aditi, because there were 13 daughters anyway. So that Kashyapa married. So he married one of them, a Daitya, they're called. Sons of Diti are Daityas. And the sons of Aditi are called Adityas. Adityas and Dityas. So their son was Vishwarup, a Brahmin, very qualified Brahmin. And when Indra got into one of those Indra problems that he sometimes gets into, because he offended their spiritual master, Brahaspati, it was recommended that he take help from Vishwarup to get his kingdom back. Vishwarup did what he did, and Indra got his kingdom back. But Vishwarup was doing some yagyas that would give nectar both to the demigods and to the demons. What? When Indra found out, he did that because he had affection for his mother. Natural. And so some of the oblations went to the demons, because that's the clan that his mother was from. When Indra found out, he was furious. He took out his sword and chopped off his heads. He killed the Brahmin. He killed the spiritual master. So the father of Vishwarup, who was killed, the father's name was Twashta. Twashta did a yagya in which Vritrasura was generated. The purpose of Vritrasura, the intended purpose, was Vritrasura should kill Indra. Now, it doesn't say this in the Bhagavatam, but I was studying it a little bit today. They're brothers. They have the same mother and father. Twashta and Indra are brothers. But, Indra killed his brother's son, who was a Brahmin. So he didn't go kill him. He created through a yagya, because he's a qualified Brahmana, a demon that was meant to kill Indra. But he made a mistake. He chanted one syllable wrong in the whole mantra. And so instead of creating a demon that would be killed, that would kill Indra, he created a demon that would be killed by Indra. Indra Chatraho became Indra Chatro. So the opposite result. So Vritrasura came out of the fire. Big battle between the demons and the demigods. The demons were prevailing. Indra went to Vishnu help. And there was a plan. Besides he scolded him badly because he killed the Brahmin, his spiritual master, the one who helped him get his kingdom back. He killed him. So he was told, take the association of a very, very qualified and detached and elevated Brahmana. And that Brahmana's name, do you remember his name? Starts with a D. Dadichi. Dadichi. You're pretty good with remembering names. Dadichi. Ask for Dadichi for his bones. When he gives you his bones, take his bones, give his bones to Vishwakarma, and I hereby pronounce the fact, by Vishnu's blessings, this thunderbolt weapon that he will create will be capable of killing Vritrasura. So they did all those things. He got this powerful thunderbolt weapon, as well as some purification, just associating with Dadichi. Dadichi is ready to give up his body so that Indra could get his kingdom. Pretty different platform, huh? Very, very different. But, on the order of Vishnu, he gave up his body. Here's my bones. So Indra's all fired up. Now he's got a powerful weapon. So they go back to have battle with the demons. And on the other side is this really big, powerful Vritrasura. A battle between them. Then Indra, there's many things that happen. Indra threw a club to hit Vritrasura. Vritrasura took the club, because he usually had a really big body, just took it in his pinkies, took the club and smashed Airavata. Airavata is the elephant carrier of Indra. And Indra's looking up at this giant. And then that's where we were reading from last night. So that's a little bit of background who Vritrasura is. And Vritrasura starts scolding Indra. That's the starting point. You deserve to be killed by providential arrangement. Here you are. With my spear, I'm going to finish you. They had a trident. A trident is a spear with 3 prongs at the end. Trident. Then he said, but aside from my killing you, supposing you kill me. That would be really good. And you know what? It's guaranteed that you'll be able to kill me. Why? Because Lord Vishnu benedicted that thunderbolt weapon that you have will kill me. So don't hesitate. And because when you kill me, I'll be freed from this curse. So he happened to remember his previous life as King Chitraketu, and that he was cursed by Parvati, and now he's in this Asura body, and I'll be freed from the curse. And I can go back to Godhead. Fantastic. And you'll get what you want. You get your kingdom back. Fantastic. You get what you want, I get what I want. I go back to Godhead, you get your silly kingdom. No problem. By the force of your thunderbolt, I shall be freed of material bondage, and shall give up this body and this world of material desires, fixing my mind upon the lotus feet of Lord Sankarsana. Now remember, in his previous life, that's the form of the Lord that appeared before him, and he offered his obeisances and prayers and Sankarshan. So he's remembering from his previous life, Sankarshan. Fixing my mind upon the lotus feet of Lord Sankarshan, I shall attain the destination of such great sages as Narada Muni, just as Lord Sankarshan has said. So he's getting enthusiastic to be with Lord Sankarshan. Now he's going to speak some transcendental knowledge. And it's just devotion. He's an exalted devotee. He's not just a knowledgeable scholar or something. Persons who fully surrender at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always think of his lotus feet are accepted and recognized by the Lord as his own personal assistants or servants. The Lord never bestows upon such servants the brilliant opulences of the upper, lower, and middle planetary systems of the material world. When one possesses material opulence in any of these three divisions of the universe, his possessions naturally increase his enmity, anxiety, mental agitation, pride, and belligerence. Thus, one goes through much endeavor to increase and maintain his possessions, and he suffers great unhappiness when he loses them. Now he's speaking about Indra. Now you really want something, you should want detachment from all this stuff. But that's not where you are. You want your stuff. Now he changes his tune. And it's our Lord. Before they're like, opponents and one will kill the other. Now it's the Lord, and attention is now our Lord. The Supreme Personality of Godhead forbids his devotees to endeavor uselessly for religion, economic development, and sense gratification. O Indra, one can thus infer how kind the Lord is. How can we infer how kind the Lord is? He doesn't encourage us. I mean, the Vedas have Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. At least these three are mentioned, Dharma, Artha, Kama. It's there because some people want them. But it's not, he doesn't favor it. He doesn't encourage it. Such mercy is obtainable only by unalloyed devotees, not by persons who aspire for material gains. So this is loaded because our Lord, because that is, Vritrasura is acknowledging, and Indra's fearful for his life because here's this big monster with a big powerful trident who just threatened to just sever his head from his body with that trident. And he's demonstrated he has the power to do it. But now it's the mood is, because his thoughts have now again focused on the personality of Godhead and the kind of kindness he has. And he doesn't want for us. He doesn't want for his devotees, his servants, to have that entanglement of too much affinity for material entanglement, or material affairs, material paraphernalia, and material position, and material means separate from Krishna. So connected to Krishna, no problem. Connected to Krishna, no problem. It's said several places in the Bhagavatam, the opulence of Maharaj Yudhisthira rivaled that of the heavenly planets. The opulence of Maharaj Ambarish surpassed the opulence of the heavenly planets. The opulence of Prahlad surpassed that of anyone of this material world, and none of the three of them were attracted to anything material. There's this very nice teaching that's in Bhakti Sandarbha. Well, it's in Bhakti Sandarbha is analyzing the kind of devotion that Sudama Brahman, you know Sudama Brahman, Krishna's friend, they went to school together at Sandipani Muni School, Sudama. Does your daughter know Sudama? You know Sudama? So Sudama was really renounced, right? Like, he was so renounced that his wife was anxiety. He's so skinny. His veins are bulging through his skin. He's so skinny. And then the commentary says there are two types of renunciation like that. One is out of fear of becoming entangled in opulence. Another is just having a dislike for, sense enjoyment. And Sudama was like that. He just didn't like it. And his wife didn't have a problem. She didn't like it either. They were a good couple. But the wife was the wife, and she was a little concerned, oh, my husband, he's so skinny, and I don't know, he should have something more than what he has. So, in the Sudama story, when he comes back to his home, you want your daughter to pay attention. You got to pay attention over here. I'm speaking like this for the children, for the big children too. But if we want stuff, it can be risky because you can get entangled in stuff. So when Sudama went to see Krishna, he's walking back home, saying, "Krishna is so kind. Krishna didn't even ask me why I came to see him." Because if he asked me, I'm a Brahmin, we have to tell the truth. And the truth was, my wife wants me to have some opulence. So he didn't even ask me. Because he knew why I'd come. And if I had asked him, he'd have to give me, because that's his nature. And he knew I'd just become entangled in stuff. So he didn't ask me. Krishna is so kind. Because he knows I'm weak. I would fall he's not weak, sensually weak, because I would become entangled. Krishna is so kind. And then when he came back, he didn't find his home. It was just like a couple of days ago, he went, there was his home. His home's not there anymore. Instead of the place where his home was, there's this big palace. So the commentary says, the kindness of Krishna is, this is the punchline, for those who can handle opulence, it's those that don't have attachment for it. Those that can't handle opulence well is those that have attachment for it. So Krishna withholds opulence for those that have attachment for it. And Krishna bestows opulence upon those that don't have attachment for it, because they can handle it. So the key is not like, rub your hands together saying, finally, some opulence. Thank you. But it's whatever Krishna wants. And whatever Krishna wants, if it's opulence or no opulence, it's just fine, because Krishna knows best. And sometimes it goes kind of like a pendulum. It goes this way, and then it goes that way, and things are going well, and things aren't going well, and things are going not well, and things are going well, and it's just fine, because it's not Krishna's testing our patience and tolerance, but Krishna's exhibiting his kindness. So it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter from the standpoint of real happiness, real joy. It doesn't matter if things are going this way, or if there's opulence or not opulence. So back to Vritrasura. He's speaking to Indra, saying, our Lord is very kind. How? We can see it because he doesn't encourage us. He gives the means, but he doesn't encourage us in Dharma, Artha, and Kama. He doesn't encourage, because people that do Dharma, often their interest is gaining piety, and the gaining of piety means Artha. And Artha means sense gratification. So he doesn't encourage it. He's very kind. Now he's not speaking to Indra, he's speaking to the Lord. Oh, my Lord. Oh, Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, he's a demon with a trident in his hand, just threatened to chop off Indra's head. Will I again be able to be a servant of your eternal servants, who find shelter only at your lotus feet? Oh, Lord of my life, may I again become their servant, so that my mind may always think of your transcendental attributes, my words always glorifying those attributes, and my body always engage in the loving service of your Lordship. Ooh. He's now not on the battlefield anymore. He is with the Lord in his thoughts. One of the Manmana, spend some time on that topic. One of the teachings in Nectar Devotion is there's 64 items recommended for devotional service. There's so many. 64 are listed. Of those 64, 5 are considered most potent. And one of the ones that we're not really good at doing, especially during pandemic, is residing in Vrindavan. But the other 4 are chanting, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, which we're doing right now, worshiping the deity form of the Lord, and serving devotees, which we try to do all of those 4 on a regular basis. And there was some discussion this morning about deity worship for householders, but living in Vrindavan we don't do. Even going on pilgrimage we couldn't do. Therefore the recommendation is in one's mind. Contemplate. So how can you contemplate if you haven't been there? Well, you can hear from those who have been there. And you can see, these days, previous, but you could see images, photographs of the places, and hear from our acharyas about the pastimes of Krishna. Because when you're there, you can be there and just take pictures and not really be there. Transcendentally be there. You can be there as a tourist. But to reside in the holy dham is not just, where your mailing address is. I mean, having that as your mailing address is very special too. But it means, being immersed in the holiness of the place. The holiness of the place is the saintly people who reside there, who are absorbed in the transcendental nature of the place and the pastimes of the Lord that took place at that place. I was, and I'm just a little comment, remarking on when Vishvamitra Muni was traveling with Ram and Lakshman to go to his ashram to deal with Subahu and Maricha. He tells the history of each place. It's just kind of a very nice part of what a itihasa is. There's histories within the main story, and it follows in a chronological fashion. So each place, he told the history, because he's a very elevated person, now knows so many things, and in explaining those things to these young boys, 12-year-old boys. Of course, they're the Lord. They know already, but the part that's I find very interesting is the place where he stayed is called Siddha Ashram. And then it's a really short explanation why it's called Siddha Ashram. It's because it's the place where Lord Vamana went after he received everything from Bali Maharaj and had this interaction with Bali Maharaj. Of course, eventually he went to where Bali Maharaj was ruling. It's in Sutala. But he went and sanctified the place where Vishvamitra Muni had his ashram. And thus it was called Siddha Ashram. So wherever the Lord is, wherever that becomes a holy place. Wherever the Lord is, that becomes a holy place. And wherever the Lord's devotees go, that becomes a holy place. Right? Right? That's a nice teaching, but so thinking about Vrindavan is where we started. But thinking about the devotees of the Lord is thinking about Vrindavan, hearing about Krishna's pastimes. So when Vidura, you know who Vidura is, right? When Vidura returns back to Hastinapur to deliver Dhritarashtra, his elder brother, the Pandavas are living in Hastinapur, and when they receive Vidura, they say, you've been to places of pilgrimage, but you yourself are like a place of pilgrimage. You yourself, you've come to us. Pilgrimage place comes to you, that's pretty good. And that's Vidura, because how purified and sanctified he had become from his devotion to Krishna and his visiting places of pilgrimage. Or, we heard this already, when Maharaj Parikshit received Shukadev Goswami, he says the same thing. When Shukadev Goswami arrives, after he's been cursed and he gives up his kingdom and goes by the side of the Ganges and calls all the sadhus to come to instruct him what to do now. And Shukadev Goswami comes, immediately everybody rises. He's just the 16-year-old looking personality, completely naked, detached from worldly anything. And they place him in some special seat. And immediately Maharaj Parikshit says, by your mere presence, I have now become purified of all my sinful actions, just like a place of pilgrimage comes to you, or like you going to a place of pilgrimage. So remembering, the point is, remembering the Lord and his devotees who are immersed in the Lord, that's the residing in Vrindavan. If you can't physically be there, best is to physically be in a holy place. And next best is be immersed in thought of that place and the Lord and the pastimes and activities of those devotees, because that's exactly what Srimad Bhagavatam is. It's also a place of pilgrimage. It's sanctifying and purifying like the Supreme Lord. So Vritrasura is wanting, his prayer to the Lord is to be with him again. And being with him again means being with his devotees again. And being with his devotees again means hearing about the Lord and hearing about his glories and his activities and his form and his qualities and everything and everything. And that's the equivalent of like residing in a holy place. It's the separate item is hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and making your place a sacred place. And let's say when you're doing your devotional activities, like chanting your japa each morning, or whatever it is that you do as your daily devotional activities, your bhajan, your devotional practices. It's good and recommended to make an atmosphere where you do that activity daily, consciousness-wide, inside and externally outside, is like a sacred space. And in that sacred space, that's where you conduct your chanting and hearing and remembering and worshiping and primary devotional activities. Some of you, at least you four, have been to 26 Second Avenue. And when you go into 26, I've been told this by people who have gone for the first time, you can feel something. You can feel something because it's a sacred space. Although it's so many years since Prabhupada was there, there's vibrationally something very special about the place. And it's not just, sentimented, you can feel it. Or, one last sharing and I'll end here. Some years ago, I was able to, on an annual basis, visit the LA Rath Yatra. It's like a really fantastic event. And one of the persons who was there every year was Vatsal Prabhu. Vatsal is Prabhupada disciple. And, we kind of connected, and he said, why don't you come visit me in Hawaii? He was the president of the Hawaii Temple for a number of years. And I was like, I don't want to go to Hawaii. It's sense gratification. I don't want to go to Hawaii. But I liked Vatsal, and so I finally, booked a ticket, and we went to Hawaii. It was when it was cold over here, it was nice over there. So when I went to Hawaii, and they stayed in the temple where Prabhupada stayed, and the deities that Prabhupada worshipped in that temple. And they have a guest room, and every morning, because it was nice and warm, so I kept the door open, somebody would go down the hall, looked like a pujari going down the hall, but wasn't in the temple room because the temple room was downstairs. So I kind of went curious. And after he went, several days, and so I went down the hall. What's down there? And I went to the door that was at the end of the hallway. I kind of cracked the door open and peeked inside. And I opened the door wide, and I could feel this wave of spiritual sanctity was where Prabhupada stayed, Prabhupada's quarters. Because the same thing is there in Los Angeles and several places where Prabhupada spent significant time. And there was a vibration in that place that was really amazing. It was, palpable. You could, one can feel. I could feel it. I didn't stay because I didn't feel I was kind of intruding in Prabhupada's sacred space. But the desk where he sat, and later I was told by one devotee who's been there, for so many years, Prabhupada spent more time translating his books in Hawaii than any other place. Than in Mayapur, or Bombay, or Los Angeles. He spent more time in Hawaii. It's a very sacred place. So you can create a sacred space, if that's the consciousness that you're in, where every day you go to do your chanting, and you don't just check the box and get that one done, check the box, get that one done, but it's very sacred time, and enter consciousness-wise internally and externally a sacred space, and perform your activities nicely. And then it's remembering the Supreme Lord, and you can remember this nice prayer. I'll read it again, where Vritrasura is in this asura body, but his consciousness is with the Lord. And he wants to be with the Lord, and he wants to be with the Lord's devotees. He wants to be in his personal presence. Text 24. O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, will I again be able to be the servant of your eternal servants, who find shelter only at your lotus feet, O Lord of my life? May I again become their servant, so that my mind may always think of your transcendental attributes, my words may always glorify those attributes, my body always engaged in the loving service of your Lordship. He's a very elevated personality, and we can learn a lot from elevated personalities like him. We'll continue tomorrow evening. Let's see if there's some discussion.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Can you please explain a little bit more about when we say Vritrasura is in a demon body?
Sure. You've seen the pictures. It's not, the features of a person who's pious. And his position as a demon, just like that celebrated verse of the Bhagavatam, the enemies of Indra, they're demons, because enemies of Indra means enemies of the Supreme Lord, because the demigods, Indra and the demigods, are servants of the Supreme Lord. You become enemies of the servants of the Supreme Lord. You become envious or enemies of the Supreme Lord. That's that, 1:3:28 verse. Ete chanksa kala pungsang krishnastu bhagavan swayam. So he had a body that was by design, by intention, was to be the enemy of Indra. So it means enemy of the Supreme Lord. So he had a body like that, but his consciousness wasn't like that. Now, there can be all kinds of different iterations of persons who have a demoniac body but aren't demoniac, even by disposition or by their activities. But he was acting because it was in the intention of his father and the mantra that he would act as an enemy of Indra, although he's preaching to him. That's the meaning, body of an asura. Anything else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So, question is Vritrasura. So, Maharaj Chitraketu, he got promoted to Vidyadhara Loka. So, Vidyadhara Loka is above Swar Loka or below Swar?
Below.
Below, right?
Yes.
So, he was still within the material realm.
Oh, yes.
And probably because of his liberation, the plan was all along that he would get liberated. That is why he was cursed by Parvati Mata.
No, it sped up the process. Put him in the fast lane.
Yeah, otherwise he would have been in.
The realm of Vidyadharas is Bhuvar Loka. Siddhas, Charanas, Gandharvas, Apsaras, Vidyadharas, Bhuvar Loka. The Vidyadhara who was cursed to become a serpent that was swallowing Nanda Maharaj, there's sages there. They get Vidyadhara. They're holders of Vidya. And their bodies are very opulent, looking beautiful and gold and this and that. So, they're special people, but they're not in the controllers of the universe position. They're the Vidyadharas. Okay. Does that answer your question? Okay. Behind you.
Guru Maharaj, I was thinking from the morning class, instructions to Chitraketu Maharaj. There was the bhakti instructions when you were expressing that was not too much given, but then preparatory phase was given more.
Yeah, that's right.
So I was thinking that chanting itself, holy name cleanses, but to be able to chant without offenses, we need to go through that preparatory phase. Is that what it is?
Well, that's best, but supposing somebody doesn't. Because lots of people that, just chant and be happy, and there's no preparatory stage. But it comes in course of time. In order to, according to Haridas Thakur, who's our acharya for chanting the holy name, one cannot get spiritual perfection without proper sambandha gyan. It's imperative. So, but one can chant and get benefit prior to that. But the culmination requires. And the evidence of sambandha gyan being properly received is there's detachment, knowledge detachment, jnana vairagya.
One should also consciously cultivate that while chanting.
It's not exactly while chanting. I mean, yes, while chanting, but it's not. The emphasis is not while chanting. The emphasis is as you're putting it, the preparatory stage, so that I can enter into chanting in a proper mood. So let's supposing I'm chanting, my mood, it starts okay, but then it starts to wander, as it always does. So knowledge may help to bring the mind back to the proper position, but it's insufficient. The mind will continue to wander. So it's knowledge that's a byproduct of bhakti, that's best. And then it gets correct. There's a self-correct within it. Still there's effort, but there's self-correct within it. The power of bhakti. Okay, it looks like a short evening. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.